Welcome to 1840s England, where we meet Mary Anning, a paleontologist with a penchant for rocks and a general aversion to people. And honestly, who can blame her? The movie kicks off with a maid scrubbing the floor, but things take a turn when a wooden gurney rolls in, carrying a remarkable artifact. Supposedly, it's a sea lizard discovered by none other than Mary Anning. Which is cool, but, again, this is 19th century England. Her name has been swapped out for some other guys, setting the stage for the subtle injustices she faces. Mary enjoys a peaceful slumber, only to be abruptly summoned to warm up the house. Coexisting with her ailing mother, Molly, in the coastal town of Lyme, Mary spends her days collecting fossils, shells, and curious items to peddle to tourists. On a routine fossil hunt, a slippery rock mountain poses a challenge, but Mary's tenacity pays off as she uncovers a sizable ammonite. Back at home, she discreetly observes social gatherings from behind closed doors, later attending to her poultry and cleansing herself after a day with her silent companions, the rocks and her mother. Their exchanges are minimal, keeping Mary's world quiet and introspective. The next day, Mary is meticulously cleaning her substantial ammonite when Roderick Murchison, a well-to-do Londoner, and an avid Mary Anning fanboy, along with his wife Charlotte, pay a visit to her shop. Roderick, or Roddy, just wants to witness Mary at work, but Mary, not in the mood for chit-chat, finds his unannounced appearance irksome. Despite Mary's significant contributions to geology, the societal norms exclude her from the scientific community, often leading her work to be credited to men, as evidenced by the earlier swapped card. Roderick, an amateur paleontologist, offers Mary something of little interest, proposing to join her on a fossil hunt. Offering payment and a premium for her time, he persuades her to let him tag along. Roddy's enthusiasm contrasts with Mary's irritation, yet she reluctantly agrees, primarily for the sake of financial gain. Later that night, Mary and her ailing mother work on cleaning figurines, offering a glimpse into the challenging aspects of Mary's life. She works by the candle's glow, preparing ink for her sketches. Roddy and Charlotte decide to hit a restaurant, but the bustling noise isn't Roddy's cup of tea. Seeking a more tranquil setting, he opts for a private room. This brief peek into Roddy and Charlotte's life reveals a rather peculiar dynamic. Roddy appears to control every aspect of Charlotte's life, treating her more like a doll than an equal partner. The scene suggests a lack of excitement in their relationship. When Charlotte attempts to inject some intimacy into their lives, Roddy dismisses the idea, attributing it to not being the right time for expanding their family, and casually rolls away. The next day, Roddy reports for his fossil adventure with Mary, and let's just say Mary's not exactly throwing him a welcome party. Despite her less than friendly demeanor, Mary flaunts her expertise in rocks, soils, and fossils, giving Roddy an unintentional geology lesson. Post-fossil shenanigans, Roddy returns to the hotel, only to discover Charlotte in a deep slumber. Not exactly what he expected. Determined to shake her out of dreamland, he coaxes her out for a leisurely walk, hoping some outdoor time will do wonders. So, Charlotte's not exactly having the time of her life. She's got this heavy cloud of melancholia hanging over her, and it's not your everyday blues, it's more like lost a child kind of heavy. The constant black outfits and the perpetual sadness are like neon signs. Now, Roddy's got this grand plan to jet off on a globetrotting adventure, leaving Charlotte behind to soak in Lyme's salty breeze. Instead of tagging along, he thinks Mary, a really unfriendly person, should keep Charlotte company during her daily fossil escapades. It's not exactly Mary's dream gig, but Roddy promises it's just a short stint. Charlotte, ready for her fossil adventure, gets handed her walking boots by Mary. Things kick off in silence, a bit uncomfortable. Mary tries to toss a snack Charlotte's way, but Charlotte's not having it. All she wants is a cozy spot on a rock, gazing into the vastness of the ocean. Mary, sensing the vibe, takes a breather and heads back to her hunting grounds. Mary, the fossil virtuoso, stumbles upon a colossal ammonite, and out of the blue, Charlotte decides it's time to drop some fossil hunting wisdom on Mary. Surprise, surprise, Mary's not exactly thrilled with this unsolicited advice, and a little squabble ensues. Mary, always ready with a solution, suggests Charlotte take a dip in the sea to cure her melancholia. But stubborn as ever, Charlotte's all in. Fast forward to Charlotte, rocking her bathing dress, bravely wading into the icy ocean waves. She swims through the strong currents, embracing the cold. Meanwhile, back at Mary's place, she's catching some sleep after working. A new day dawns, and Charlotte is ready for another round of melancholy. Charlotte, determined, reports for fossil boot camp, only to find herself collapsing into Mary's arms. The poor thing is seriously shaking. Enter Dr. Lieberson, the town's resident heartthrob doc, who diagnoses Charlotte with a high fever courtesy of her chilly ocean escapade. Despite some initial hesitation, Mary steps up to the plate to nurse Charlotte back to health. Dr. Lieberson, the smooth talker, appeals to Mary's humanity and imparts some wisdom before making his exit. However, Mama Molly isn't exactly thrilled about hosting another sick guest. A few days later, Charlotte is still in a tough spot, prompting Mary to embark on a mission to fetch some healing salve. She pays a visit to an old acquaintance named Elizabeth, who's known for her magical healing concoctions. Now, here's the catch: Mary and Elizabeth aren't exactly on each other's Christmas card list. There's an unspoken tension, and Mary can't even bring herself to make eye contact. Despite the awkward vibes, Mary gets her hands on the salve and rushes back to tend to Charlotte. She meticulously applies the salve to Charlotte's back and chest. Initially a bit shaky, Mary finds her rhythm. Oh, and of course, she's just staring at Charlotte in a completely normal, non-creepy way. Skipping ahead a bit, Mary is now channeling her inner artist and sketching Charlotte. The scratchy sound of the pencil on paper disrupts the piece, jolting Charlotte awake. Miraculously, she seems to be on the road to recovery. Enter Dr. Lieberson for a checkup. To everyone's amazement, Charlotte isn't just alive, she's looking positively human again. Dr. Lieberson, quite impressed with Mary's caregiving prowess, gives her an approving nod and imparts some final medical wisdom. With Charlotte regaining her strength, she sheds the mourning attire and begins to explore Mary's abode. A chance discovery of a piano leads to an impromptu musical performance. Mary, silently observing, lets Charlotte lose herself in the melodies. Later, amidst Mary's rock-scraping activities, Charlotte suggests a beach outing. It seems they've found some kind of comfort zone. Charlotte, clearly grateful for Mary saving her life, takes off her shoes and socks, quite the scandalous move at the time. The two women exchange glances and remain silent. Out and about in the market, Mary watches as Charlotte pets a baby. Suddenly, Charlotte clutches her stomach, a sadness in her eyes. And just like that, Mary pieces together that Charlotte might be longing for a child. In an unexpected twist, Charlotte volunteers to assist Mary in the kitchen. Mary, juggling her roles as a fossil enthusiast and chef, assigns her the task of peeling carrots. However, it becomes evident that Charlotte is a bit out of her element with vegetables. Not exactly a culinary expert, she struggles through the task, prompting Mary to redirect her to the simpler chore of fetching coal. Charlotte, unaccustomed to such household duties, stumbles through the process and returns adorned in soot, finding humor in the situation. But then, out of the blue, Charlotte experiences a breakdown. Mary is taken aback, but her compassionate nature kicks in, and she steps in to provide comfort, even if the situation feels a bit awkward. Mary hands Charlotte a soothing drink and supports her through the emotional storm. So then, fossil fairy tale continues. Mary the shell entrepreneur and Charlotte the new apprentice are bonding over their craft. Night falls, and it's time for a heart-to-heart. Mary spills the tea on her mama's tragic story. 10 kids, 8 casualties. Charlotte, ever the observant bedmate, spots Mary attempting some acrobatics on a chair. A quick suggestion and they're sharing a bed. Not the coziest setup, but hey, unconventional beds for unconventional companions. The next day, Mary's collecting goodies for the tourists. Charlotte proudly displays a framed mirror she crafted. However, Molly, witnessing Charlotte clean the figurines, isn't thrilled. Doc Lieberson comes by again, making a house call for Mary. He invites her to a concert at his place, but Mary, loyal to her friend, or just plainly socially awkward, insists on Charlotte joining. Concerned for Charlotte's health, Doc Lieberson advises against it. Unwilling to go solo, Mary proposes a condition. She'll only attend if Charlotte can come too. Dr. Lieberson finally agrees to invite Charlotte. As Charlotte gets ready, Mary lends a hand, tightening her bodice. There's a subtle bonding moment as Charlotte applies perfume to Mary's wrists, eliciting a nice smile. Dinner interrupts the scene, but when Charlotte emerges in a charming dress, Mary gives her approval. While waiting for transportation, they share a bit of friendly hand-holding. Just two pals heading to a concert, hand in hand. That night everyone's prepping for the concert, looking a bit out of place, especially poor Mary. Dr. Lieberson tries to engage her, but feeling uneasy, Mary opts for a smoke outside. Meanwhile, the socially adept Charlotte happily mingles with the crowd. As the concert kicks off and seats are taken, Charlotte returns, disheartened to find her new camaraderie with Elizabeth. Mary, staring intensely, can't hide her discomfort. Midway through the concert, she's had enough, discreetly making her exit. Dr. Lieberson, seemingly admiring Mary, steals glances in her direction. Later, Charlotte comes home, upset that Mary ditched her at the event. Unfazed, Mary's engrossed in writing when Charlotte, feeling bold, swipes her notebook and reads a love poem aloud. It's undeniably about Charlotte. Instead of anger, she appreciates the sentiment. Trying to bridge the emotional gap, Charlotte delicately reaches for Mary's hand, only to face a cold rejection. Mary seems royally pissed. On another dreary day at the beach, the customary ritual of fossil hunting unfolds. This time, a notably large rock has tumbled, capturing Mary's discerning eye. Deeming it too immense, Charlotte, always the daring spirit, plunges in with her bare hands, prompting Mary to suggest a more practical digging tool. Together, they embark on an excavation, skillfully unearthing a significant find. Faced with the challenge of lifting the hefty discovery, Mary ingeniously repurposes a plank from a nearby boat. Triumphantly, they transport the fossil home, anticipating a thorough cleaning. In the slow and meticulous process of cleaning the fossil, Mary seizes the opportunity to educate Charlotte about the profound significance of their discovery, emphasizing the intricate presence of bones. Drawing from her own childhood experiences, Mary recounts the moment, at the tender age of 11, when she stumbled upon fresh bones that eventually secured a prestigious place in the British Museum. After dedicating hours to the meticulous cleaning process, Charlotte, fatigued but brimming with enthusiasm, expresses her ardent desire to contribute more. Despite Mary's readiness to call it a night, an unexpected turn of events transpires. A passionate and unexpected kiss shared between the two women. Feeling the urge to cool off, Mary decides to take a dip in the water, shedding her skirt on a whim. Charlotte, always up for some fun, follows suit. With the sun beaming down, they indulge in a bit of water play, maybe risking another kind of fever, love fever. Amidst romantic kisses and playful waves, a certain rhythm echoes back in their room. Heavy breathing and a playful request for poetry. It seems like the unconventional love story of Charlotte, and Mary is taking an interesting turn. In another corner of their world, Charlotte discovers a neglected embroidery project and decides to inject some artistic flair, seamlessly filling in the gaps. Then, as if that's not enough, she showcases her musical prowess on the piano, the notes intertwining with the curls of smoke from Mary's leisurely cigarette. This time, Charlotte's got the tuning on point, making the music a sweet serenade. Charlotte, fully immersed in Mary's world, discovers a piece of unfinished embroidery. With a touch of genuine interest, she takes it upon herself to turn it into a masterpiece, showcasing it proudly outside the store. Now, onto the sea lizard fossil drama. A potential buyer strolls in, eyeing the fossil, and does the classic lowball move. But Charlotte, with a level of passion that's hard to ignore, steps up. She goes all in, passionately narrating the saga of Mary's dedication, those serious hours spent unearthing, cleaning, and unveiling the fossil's true beauty. Mary's squirming a bit, not the biggest fan of the spotlight, but Charlotte's in full negotiator mode. Charlotte advocates like a boss, stressing how Mary's work is top-notch and deserves more than a measly offer. It's like a negotiation masterclass. And what do you know? The impressed buyer, swayed by Charlotte's fervent defense, coughs up a better, more deserving price. It's a win for Mary's work, and Charlotte's passion takes center stage in the shop. Mary just takes a moment for her ritual smoke, but her mother's health decides to take a nosedive. Talk about life picking the worst timing ever. Now, at the dinner table, things are getting a bit awkward. Charlotte, with a mix of anticipation and anxiety, cracks open a letter from her husband. As she dives into the contents, her emotions go on a roller coaster ride. More like tearful moments, overwhelmed expressions. It's like reading a novel in her face. And then, out of the blue, she's out of there, leaving Mary behind, puzzled and slightly worried. It's a dinner table drama you didn't see coming. Charlotte, being the thoughtful soul she is, hands Mary a handkerchief, and not just any handkerchief, the one she personally embroidered. Cue the sweetness. Now, fast forward to bedtime. Charlotte decides to take the lead in cranking up the intimacy. The atmosphere gets heated, with passionate kisses exchanged. It's not just your run-of-the-mill scene, it's genuine, well-performed, and a true connection blossoms between the two. Shared struggles, heavy breaths, and an attempt to keep things on the down low. It's like a symphony of emotions. Now, on to the next day. Charlotte's all packed and ready to roll, even bringing along some souvenirs in the form of stones. Mary sees her off, and there's this hint of sadness in both their eyes. They share these intense stares, like a whole conversation happening without words. Finally, Charlotte hops into the carriage and rolls out. Mary, on the other hand, returns to her melancholic life. As she walks into her humble abode, her mother Molly is there, busy polishing her figurines. Elizabeth, not to be left out, goes back to bed. And in a turn of events, Molly eventually breathes her last. Mary's knee-deep in the heavy business of preparing Molly for her final farewell, setting the mood for what's to come. And then, surprise, Elizabeth pops in unannounced to pay her respects. This unexpected turn of events unveils the hidden layers of their relationship. They sit down, cups in hand, a classic move in times of mourning. The conversation kicks off with Elizabeth reminiscing about Molly, a subtle dance around the past. Now here's the revelation. The conversation pirouettes seamlessly into the realm of Charlotte. Elizabeth, with a nod that screams approval, spills her thoughts on Mary's newfound connection. Plot twist of the century, Mary and Elizabeth, in some bygone era, were lovers. Elizabeth, on a mission for reconciliation, spills her emotional guts. She dishes out apologies for past hurts, elegantly blaming Mary's emotional distance. There's a moment of acceptance for Mary's new connection with Charlotte, almost like Elizabeth is handing out her blessing. And then, in a scene straight out of a soap opera script, Mary grabs Elizabeth's hand, a symbolic gesture of reconciliation and closure. Mary's place is a bit of a mess, like someone shook it up and left. The chaos reigns until a knock throws some disruption into the gloom. Mary, caught off guard, opens the door and gets handed a letter from Charlotte. The thing's sealed, holding the potential for some heavy words, but Mary, in a bold move, leaves it untouched. Maybe it's her way of holding onto the reins amidst all the emotional whirlwind. Next up, we've got Mary strolling by the docks, bags slung over her shoulder, all set to jump on a ship headed to London. The shift from the cozy Limetown to the hustle of London is like changing the channel to a whole new show, and Mary's the star. Now, London, the city of noise, people, and more noise. Mary wades through the busy streets, a far cry from the quiet coastline she's used to. The city, with its chaos and speed, becomes a character itself, shaping Mary's adventure into the unknown. And then, she's standing at the doorstep of Charlotte and Roddy's fancy mansion. Mary rings the doorbell, and the servant answers. Taking a moment to check out her new surroundings, Mary's eyes roam over the luxurious details of the mansion. Small rocks catch her attention, each labeled, and one even bears her name. These tiny details, seemingly insignificant, add a personal touch to the grandeur of the mansion. Then, the annoying bell rings, jarring in the posh setting. It's Charlotte's grand entrance into the drawing room. The anticipation amps up as Mary, surrounded by opulence, braces herself for the reunion with the mysterious figure who pulled her into this world of wealth and complexity. Charlotte practically jumps into Mary's arms, showering her with kisses, completely ignoring the maid. Overjoyed with Mary's arrival, Charlotte unveils a surprise, a bedroom just for Mary. Mary, thinking it's a temporary thing, is taken aback when Charlotte expresses her desire for Mary to move in permanently. Charlotte has even gone the extra mile, providing tailored clothes for Mary. However, Mary is more confused than delighted, and an awkward silence hangs in the air. She explains to Charlotte that this isn't what she came for, feeling a bit misled and uncertain about the true nature of Charlotte's invitation. A brief squabble ensues, with Mary expressing her reluctance to have her life uprooted from her quiet town. Despite Charlotte's well-intentioned gestures, Mary is disappointed and decides to leave, looking for somewhere else to spend the night, still clutching onto Charlotte's hanky. The next day, Mary decides to swing by the British Museum to have a peek at her fossilized dinosaur display, complete with its fancy made-up name. While casually strolling around, Charlotte appears, sporting her usual dark ensemble and emitting a somewhat gloomy vibe. As their eyes meet through the glass cages, it's like time itself has hit the pause button.